This vehicle is equipped with radial tires, and normally on a car equipped with radial tires and rear-wheel drive, you use a standard crisscross pattern. You would take the rear driver's side tire to the front driver's side, the front driver's side tire to the rear passenger side, the rear passenger side to the front passenger side, and the front passenger side would then come back around to the rear driver's side. This journey happens to be rear-wheel drive, so we're just going to reverse that, and what we'll do is we'll take the front driver's side to the rear driver's side, we'll take the rear driver's side over to the front passenger side straight back to the rear passenger side, and then the rear passenger side will work its way back up to the front driver's side. With the car in park, I'm going to go ahead and set the emergency brake. The first tire we'll remove will be the front driver's side tire. And in preparation for the removal of that tire, what we want to do is use a couple of chocks. Now these can be bricks, they can be blocks of wood. You basically put them up under the tire, and then with your foot, kick them in nice and tight to make sure that you've got a tight fit. What this does is you always chock the opposite tire, or the opposite corner tire, from the tire you're removing, and this keeps the vehicle from rolling back and forth while it's on the jack, which can be a dangerous situation. Before I put the vehicle up on the jack, I like to go ahead and break loose each of the lug nuts. And the reason why is these are torqued down fairly tightly. And if you have this vehicle up on a jack and you're ratcheting on these lugs to break them loose, the vehicle could rock back and forth a little bit, which could cause it to fall off the jack, causing damage to the car, or worse, serious injury to you. I'm not going to be using the standard lug wrench or jack that comes with the vehicle. I'll be using a 2-ton floor jack, and I'm going to go ahead and use my ratchet to remove each of these lugs. Now there is a bit of an issue. You'll notice that this rim, those lugs are relatively deeply set, so I can't get the lug in there, get a good fit, and ratchet because of the shape of the wheel. So I'm going to have to use an extension. Now preferably, I would want the shortest extension possible. This is unfortunately the only extension that I have for my 3/4 inch ratchet wrench. What that means is when I'm ratcheting, I've got to be careful to keep this straight as I ratchet. You don't want to torque on this, because if you get this at an angle, you could put undue torque on the lug bolt, and you can actually break them off. So we're going to have to be very careful. Let's go ahead and break all these lugs loose. The best way to break these nuts loose is to use your legs. So what you'll do is you'll place your socket wrench, you'll make sure it's nice and straight, we'll squat down, keeping our back straight, and lift with our legs. We've raised the vehicle up in the air to where the tire is just barely above the ground. Don't want to go too high. And what we can do is go ahead and remove all of the lug nuts from the rim. The tire is ready for removal. Even though the vehicle is low to the ground, you still want to use your legs for lifting the tire off the vehicle. And then you can roll it out of the way. This car is equipped with a temporary spare tire. You should never use one of these long term. They are designed to get you from a location where you have a flat tire to a service station, and that's it. But we are going to use it for this process because we need to go ahead and set the front of the car down in order to raise the back up and move this tire to the rear driver's side of the car. Now, while installing this tire, we do not need to torque these bolts down. We just need to snug them up. And you'll notice I've got all the lugs on the tire, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, we just want to snug them up. And the idea is you don't want these to be loose, so when you set the car down, the wheel could move one way or another, especially while we're jacking other sides of the car up, because it could cause damage or break the lug bolts behind these nuts. So we're just going to snug them up, just a little snug, and then notice I'm going to go from the first bolt. You want to alternate bolts, so skip a bolt. You're going to come over here, tighten down, then we'll skip a bolt, and these have become looser because as we snug these up, it draws the tire to the hub. So we'll tighten them by hand, and then we'll give them a little snug. And I'm going to go ahead and run through the pattern one more time. And you don't want to put a lot of pressure here because you could rock the car. We just want to make sure that this tire is not going to move when this vehicle is placed back on the ground. I'm ready to remove the rear tire for the swap. I've broken all of the nuts loose. I have chalked the opposite corner of the car, which is the right front. The vehicle is up on the jack. This wheel is slightly above the ground. It will not rock though, and the reason why is you'll remember earlier in the video I set the emergency brake. Setting the emergency brake locks the rear two brakes of the vehicle. So this one's going to be very stiff. I'm ready now to remove the 5 bolts, and we'll take the tire from the front of the vehicle and install it in this position. The tire from the rear passenger side is coming to the front driver's side. All of my nuts have been broke loose. The vehicle was chalked. The wheel is now slightly above the ground. We're ready to go ahead and swap tires. The front passenger side tire is dropping back to the rear passenger side of the vehicle. Once again, lugs are loosened. Front driver's side tire is chalked, and the vehicle is off the ground. One more thing I failed to mention, and I have been doing this, while the tires are off the vehicle, go ahead and just slowly roll them and inspect the tread. You're looking for nails, you're looking for screws, any type of weird cupping pattern, just anything that looks out of the normal for the tire. Hopefully you find nothing, which has been the case for me, and I'm very happy about that. And once you've rotated the tire a full 360 degrees, you're ready to go ahead and reinstall it on the vehicle. All safety precautions have been taken. I'm ready now to remove the spare tire and replace it with the passenger side rear tire. Now while I'm doing that, I'm going to make a couple of comments. I'm using a ratchet to remove these lugs. You could just as easily use the wrench and the jack that came with the vehicle. They're designed for this vehicle. They will work perfectly. They're just a little bit slower. I like the ratchet because I can spin the lugs off by hand versus the wrench, which is kind of an L-shaped, and sometimes you have interference with the floor, or you've got to watch so you don't hit a panel on the car. So you can use them, you just need to be more careful. I do have a compressor and an air impact wrench, which I could have used. Many of you have that tool, or also have an electric impact. Those are extremely nice when you get to the part of initially breaking the bolts loose. You're not going to have to use as much of your leg and back to do that. Also for tightening the bolts, the final tightening is a lot nicer with an impact. I just didn't want to use those for this video because I wanted to show you that this job can be done with just everyday normal tools. What we've run into here is a little situation. The spare tire is quite a bit smaller than the vehicle tire, so when I raised the vehicle so that the spare was off the ground, it's not high enough to reinstall the vehicle's tire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take a look at it. It looks like about 1.5 inches. I'm going to move this out of the way for safety reasons, and then we're going to go ahead and raise the car about 2 inches. Looks like we should be in good shape now. We'll go ahead and reinstall the rim. At this point, I'll lower the vehicle to the ground, and with the ratchet, I'm going to go around to each tire. There's no particular order at this point, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to tighten down all of the lug nuts. I will use the order of every other lug when I tighten. Just want to make sure everything's snug. We'll drive the car after 50, 60 miles or so. I will bring the ratchet back out and re-tighten each of the lugs. They should not loosen up, but just in case, you always want to do a second check very shortly after rotating the tires.